Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to our first webinar of our 2022 Bellwether Innovation Series. On behalf of the Bellwether College Consortium, I am pleased to welcome our guests from Ocean County College. This is an amazing team. Their presentation on Reggie, the AI chatbot for OCC, won this year's Bellwether Award in the category of Planning, Finance, and Governance. And I got to see a part of their presentation at a national conference just a couple of weeks ago. And believe it or not, I hadn't seen it as the director because I was running around that day trying to make sure all 30 presentations were going smoothly, and it was just excellent. And so I totally get why our judges thought this is the team to win this national honor. Before I pass on the speaking baton to our guests, let me introduce myself. My name is Rose Martinez, and I serve as a director for the Bellwether College Consortium. The consortium is 28 years old. I am humbled to work with an amazing crew. On the line, we have Robert Acosta, who is our communications coordinator. Our two other members couldn't join us today, but they are Jessica Barnes, who handles all the logistics for our large event, and Dina Rodriguez Cassidy, who works diligently with our judges to make sure they have what they need to judge this national competition. The consortium, like I said, is 28 years old. We support and promote innovation at our community colleges. We are unapologetically focused on community college, not only innovation, but also on dissertation research. So in terms of who we are member supported. Our consortium is charged with addressing critical issues facing our community colleges. And we know with the pandemic, it just exploded exponentially. We promote, just like we're doing today, our award winners programs, so that perhaps those of you on the line that have not come to the event or not a consortium member can learn and perhaps replicate or parts or all of it. So we are all about sharing what's working. These programs are, like I said, replicable, scalable, equity focused, and evidence-based. And those are the parameters, those are the criteria that we use or our judges use when they're scoring these community colleges and their programs. The dissertation award, we have actually a new portion of our consortium dedicated to identifying an outstanding dissertation award. And this is brand new, and I'm so excited about it because it connects, it bridges the great work that our practitioners are doing, our community colleges, with our newly minted doctoral students that are going out in the world and hopefully continuing to research community college issues. And I think by marrying those two pieces, the practitioner focus and then also research, we can do so much more within the confines of our consortium and be so much more of a value add to our community colleges. So excited about that. If you are a doctoral student gonna defend a dissertation this year, come to our website, learn more about it. We will be providing more information through our social media channels about that new competition. In terms of, if we go to the next slide, let me go ahead and say that we also want to say that we are supported by Alamo College's district in San Antonio, Texas, which is where our final round takes place annually at our signature event called the Community College Futures Assembly. That is the second round of a 2-round competition process. We have 30 community colleges that are named Bellwether finalists. We have 10 from one of 3 categories. You'll hear today from the winner of Planning, Finance, and Governance. We also have instructional programs and services, and then finally workforce development. So we take the top 10 scores in each of those categories. They're invited to come to the consortium, be part of the consortium, and obviously compete for the national award. And it is very exciting, lots of energy, and I guarantee you, whether you're competing or not, you just walk away from that feeling like I have a new respect for the work folks in community colleges that are doing. And I have so much information that I can go back to my team and share that where certain colleges are basically battling the same questions and challenges that we have. And I think maybe some good perspective on what our college can do if you're one of those colleges, like I said, that isn't part of the competition, or even that is part of the competition. Just wonderful information shared. And in terms of the dates and deadlines, I'll go ahead and go to that. 2023 Bellwether Award competition is coming quickly. We will be opening our submission portal soon, and thinking May 25th is our target date. I think we can do that. We're really excited about that. We've already started this process. We'll start the competition overview, or have an overview, should I say, just like this webinar on June 16th. So if you want to learn more about the competition, please join us then. We will announce our 30 Bellwether winners or finalists for 2023 this November. And then we'll start the process all over again with the assembly meeting up on the 26th through the 28th at the Menger Hotel in San Antonio, Texas. So a lot of information there. All of this is found on our website, and we'll be sharing this with you as the months come, just in bite-sized pieces. But please look towards putting together a proposal, and we would love to see you at our event. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our panelists. We have Dr. Sheena Hartigan, Dr. Kathleen Moore, and then Dr. Gerald or Jerry Raciapoe. I'm sorry, I always mess your name up. All three are here, and I'm so happy to pass on the baton to them and share the exciting background on Reggie, the AI chatbot that did some wonderful things at your college. So take it away, y'all.
Thank you. We appreciate the warm welcome, and good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you're all here today to learn more about Reggie, Ocean County College's AI chatbot. So I hope you're all in the right place. Before we dig into the nuts and bolts of the presentation, see what I did there? I want to take a few minutes to let the star of our show introduce themselves. Some of you may have chatted with a chatbot before, but for those of you that haven't, Dr. Raciapoe here is going to share his phone, which is a wildly risky move, we're aware, and we've asked him not to go rogue. So bear with us. I will read Reggie's voice, and Dr. Moore is going to dig in to Jerry's.
Hello.
Hi.
Who are you?
I'm Reggie, a chatbot designed to help you answer questions about Ocean County College. I use AI to help students start and complete college.
How do I apply?
It's a good question. Woohoo! You can find the application at, and you'll see there's an embedded link. If you were to click on that link, oh, yep, see, he goes rogue. It brings you right to the Create Account page where students can start and complete their application.
Cool.
Really, Jerry? Cool as ice, 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 baby.
Is college expensive?
Not if you go to Ocean. Let's see if Reggie knows. OCC may be able to help. Financial aid scholarships, grants, and loans may be available to you. Qualified students may attend tuition-free through grant funds.
I want to be a nurse.
The AAS in nursing at OCC has a number of prereqs and track options. For more info, another embedded link, give it a shot. Anything is pulseable.
How do I register?
That should be a softball for Reggie. New and current students can self-register in student planning. Students can also receive help through registering through the hub or an academic advisor. Student planning guide. What happens if you click that one, Dr. Raciapoe? Let's hope this works. Shazam, student planning. Cool, thank you.
What do you do for fun?
Uh-oh. My favorite thing to do is help students like you. I also like to spend time with friends, but not Hal or Skynet. They're bad influences.
Okay.
Jerry.
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck? Oh, Reggie already knows.
If properly motivated, a woodchuck or a groundhog could chuck as much wood as it wanted to chuck.
What's the weather in Tom's River?
OCC is located in Toms River, New Jersey, so it depends on what time of the year. We're lucky enough to have all 4 seasons here.
What's the weather?
Jerry, no going rogue. It's always sunny in cyberspace, but here is the weather at OCC.
Thanks, Reggie.
Okay, I'm glad that worked. We are so excited and honored to be here virtually presenting to you all this afternoon. My name is Jerry Rassiopi, and I serve as Ocean County College's Vice President of Student Affairs. I am here today with the Assistant Director of Enrollment Services, Dr. Kate Moore. Give a wave, Kate, yeah. And the Executive Director of Enrollment Services, Dr. Sheena Hartigan. We're here today to introduce you to Ocean County College's hardest working and award-winning employee, Reginald T. Bott, or Reggie, to his friends. Reggie is our institution's augmented intelligence, that's a word I don't use very often, or AI chatbot, and we'll be discussing the impact of utilizing AI to retain, enroll, and support students, in particular through the pandemic. Feel free to put your questions in the chat so you don't have to write them down or remember them, so we have time to address them at the end of our presentation. Ocean County College is a 2-year community college located in the heart of Toms River, New Jersey. And for those of you who are not familiar with Toms River, we are a stone's throw away from where the hit TV show, The Jersey Shore, was filmed. OCC sits on 275 acres. It was founded in 1964. We offer AS, AA, and AAS degrees in almost 50 areas of study, as well as professional certificates, educational opportunities for high school students and seniors, and workforce development. Ocean has nearly 20 new buildings that were erected in the past 18 years, including our brand new student enrollment building that houses our one-stop shop, which opened in July of 2021. Ocean's vision statement says that we hope to be, in part, the boldest, the most creative, most innovative, student-centered college in America. So, no pressure. In 2017, OCC was like most community colleges. Our recruiting efforts outside of our visits to high schools were all designed to make the most of whatever opportunity a person gave us to interact with them. We were mostly dependent on a potential student reaching out to us. We were missing out on opportunities to enroll anyone who didn't have the inclination to contact us. We were reactive. We were passive. The implementation of the AI chatbot, Reggie, was the starting point of a change that moved us to where we are now, which is a completely proactive stance. We never wait for anyone to contact us anymore. We contact them along the way and tell them what to do next and provide a great deal of encouragement and some fun along the way. And Reggie plays a critical part in that. Both national and community college enrollment peaked in 2010-2011. The graph on the screen is the unduplicated credit-seeking headcount at Ocean by fiscal year from 2011 to 2021. There's a lot of reasons for the decline between 2011 to 2016. Following the economic downturn at the end of the 2000s, many people returned to work. Ocean County was and continues to experience a drop in the K through 12 population and the size of it. This will continue. Between now and 2030, the number of graduating seniors in Ocean County will decrease by 20%. The years in blue, from 2011 to 2016, display our enrollment challenge clearly. We were enrolling fewer students. They were taking less credits. We needed a solution and we needed it quickly. I do want to talk about the green. It was in 2017 that we implemented the one-stop shop for express enrollment services. It was then when we moved to a proactive stance in recruitment. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later on, as the star of our presentation, Reginald, is critical in that. It was also in 2017, as you'll hear later in the presentation, that Reginald was born and started working 24/7. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on 2021. I'm sure everybody's through talking about 2021. Retention of students at Ocean County College peaked in 2016, but has been on a decline for some time, as shown in this graph. The large drop in 2020 is the effect of COVID-19. Please consider the contrast between this graph and the previous graph. Despite losses in retention, OCC's unduplicated headcount increased every year from 2017 on until we got to 2021. In 2020, we began to utilize Reggie for our continuing student population in addition to potential and new students. And the effects are not evident within this graph because of the pandemic, but we will be able to share measurable outcomes later in the presentation. But the reason why the graphs are different is because all those years, 2017 to 2020, we were growing the size of our new student class despite the fact that retention was falling.
So we won't say that Generation Z is a challenge, but like many other institutions, OCC was facing the influx of a new generation of students, and we simply weren't prepared to address their needs and their service expectations. Gen Z, which is sometimes called the iGen or Zoomers, the bubble wrap generation, they were born between 1996 and 2009. The internet was founded in 1995. So these digital natives, they've been defined by new technologies like widespread internet and cell service, socioeconomic trends, world events. More than 50% of Gen Z, they claim to be addicted to their mobile devices. 46% are connected more than 10 hours a day. They can average 5 screens at a time, while other generations max out at 2. So your cell phone and your laptop and your TV, they can do 5. What's important for colleges to know is that Gen Z takes information in bite-sized pieces. That's BYTE, 160 characters or less, scrolling. Think Snapchat, think Twitter. They are the DIY generation. Everyone can change a tire or fix their furnace just by watching YouTube. Everyone's a comedian or a movie star thanks to TikTok. They have shorter attention spans, which is not a negative. It just leads to the appreciation of instant gratification. They expect the right answer all of the time. We liken this generation to the Netflix experience. What happens when you watch Netflix? You go on, you pick a show. The next time you go on, it's going to tell you what you'll like. Our students are the same. They may call us for one reason, but they expect you to tell them what they need next before they even ask. So given the declines in enrollment and retention, as Dr. Asiopi talked about, and the changing demographics, Ocean implemented a one-stop shop in 2017. One-stops are integrated service models, which allow students to receive express enrollment services either physically or virtually. They feature cross-trained frontline employees who have a knowledge in a plethora of areas. At Ocean, our one-stop includes admissions, registration, the bursar's office, baseline advising, and financial aid. Our students are empowered to self-serve, meaning we teach them how to use the college's student portals. There's an emphasis on customer service. In 2017, Reggie was also born. The one-stop shop has been shown to have a positive influence on student satisfaction for the institution. It had grown to be a centralized location for students to get streamlined assistance in a student-centered atmosphere. And then the pandemic hit. COVID-19, as everyone here knows, brought a whole new level of challenges. Students were transitioned to remote education. We weren't quite sure how to contact students, when to contact students, or what kind of messages would be received well. We struggled to assess our students' needs and connect students with resources. In addition to our education moving remote, So did all of our non-academic student support services. The global pandemic has been difficult for institutions of higher education. We can't just look back and think, what did they do with the last pandemic? How did students then meet the needs of their students? We didn't know how to recruit, how to retain, ultimately how to graduate our students in this new time. We had to make a lot of decisions on how to best connect with and support our students. And it was because of that we ultimately decided to lean heavily into the chatbot's capabilities, engaging with students in a whole new way, providing the institution with great insight and usable data, which led to measurable outcomes. Meet my favorite employee, Reggie. His name is Reginald T. Bott, and he was born in November of 2017. He was named by our students. He's known as Reggie, and Ocean was the first community college to implement a chatbot in the country. Reggie utilizes a web interface, but primarily connects with students through text messages. Like a one-stop employee, Reggie is cross-trained with a broad understanding and knowledge base in admissions, registration, financial aid, the bursar's office, and advising, as well as college knowledge. Unlike a one-stop employee, Reggie works 24/7, 365. So what is AI? AI is the ability for a computer or a robot controlled by a computer to do tasks usually done by humans because they require human intelligence. When someone says augmented or artificial intelligence, you might think it's overhyped. We hear it all the time, right? It's also really underused. Right now, AI can do narrow predictive tasks with accuracy. But if you choose the right approach, you can have an extraordinary impact. The key for colleges to successfully apply augmented intelligence with today's college students is to use real data to proactively solve real problems by engaging in real time. What's important to know is that technology alone is not the answer for the institution. AI must be a purpose-driven, college-wide collaboration between the people and the technology. So how does it work? Essentially, this is going to sound wild, the chatbot is using AI and behavioral intelligence in order to inform how to best help students engage at scale. The institution is tapping into the student insights and data analytics to understand what kind of interventions will work best to drive positive outcomes. So in the pyramid you see before you, you'll see the building blocks of behavioral intelligence and how they apply to Reggie. The bottom of the pyramid is the IQ. That's intelligence. That's what we all kind of know, right? The foundational element of behavioral intelligence, the most basic of the three, IQ is just the ability to provide instant, accurate answers. The next level, the EQ, you might be familiar with that one too. It's emotional intelligence. Research has shown, not just here at Ocean, but all over, that sometimes what you say is just as important as the way you say it, especially when it comes to students. Emotional intelligence is using active listening to automatically respond with empathy and then escalate those sensitive conversations to a human. It's nearly impossible for a human to do this at scale, but a behavioral intelligence platform like a chatbot can analyze thousands or even millions of conversations in real time. The apex of our pyramid is CQ, the one you might not be totally familiar with. It represents culture and contextual relevance, providing the best response for a student's unique circumstances at that specific moment in time. What it allows us to do is anticipate student needs and respond in a way that drives action and engagement across a wide range of topics.
So consider what Sheena just said here. They trained a machine to have emotional and contextual intelligence.
We did.
Yeah.
So what does Reggie do? At the point of inquiry, Reggie introduces himself to students as the virtual chatbot. Hi, I'm Reggie, and you'll see some examples in a little bit. Once that relationship is established, he responds to student inquiries and messages 24/7, and he uses a web of questions and a knowledge base. In 2017, Reggie began with a knowledge base of a little over 1,200 understandings. That's now increased to over 3,000 understandings. Reggie learns as he goes. He increases his database on a daily basis. So the more students interact with him, the smarter he gets. Reggie translates messages from student lingo and acronyms. IDK means I don't know. LOL means laugh out loud. He dissects student language. So if a student says, I'm broke, it really means, how do I do my financial aid? And he provides consistent answers to large groups quickly. The messages Reggie sends and receives, they all work to increase engagement, gain insight, build connections, and ultimately drive action.
This brings us to, what does Reggie say to our students? So Reggie sends a multitude of messages that can be categorized as nudges, surveys, invitations, or value-added communications. And we utilize these messages to develop in-depth communication plans and campaigns targeted to specific groups of students. For example, some plans will be directed to all students, like when registration is open for a new semester, but the message students receive may differ. Degree-seeking students can register themselves and they use the student portal, but then our early college students, well, they have to get guidance counselor approval prior to registration. So nudges are a call to action. We drive students to click on a link, make an appointment, or complete their next enrollment-related step. Surveys are conditional questions that Reggie asks, encouraging students to respond by either answering yes or no, or from choosing from a selection of options. So this real-time student data allows us to quickly and efficiently identify and target students who may need assistance and connect them with the appropriate resources. Reggie also sends invitations to upcoming events, and he receives far more RSVPs than snail mail or phone campaigns alone. He also deploys value-added messages, like, for example, one time he told students to have a happy new year.
What was Reggie's New Year's resolution, Kate?
It was to get healthier by taking more gigabytes of fruits and vegetables. Another year was actually to spend more time with his motherboard, which was also cute. So in September 2020, this was the first fall that we were remote, Reggie texted 6,126 students to wish them a happy first day of class and to remind them to log into the LMS. 524 students responded to ask questions or indicate that they needed help, which we were then able to provide. This was critical because it provided insight into areas of needs and behavior during the pandemic and got students the assistance they needed when they needed it. So this equates to Reggie saving 9 staff hours in a single day. And there's no way we would have been able to staff our phone lines or our inbox to answer an additional 524 phone calls or emails in a workday. And I think the other great thing about a nudge such as this is that it created a warm welcome for students on their first day of class and for some students on their first day of college.
We're going to showcase some examples of real conversations that Reggie's had, real student interactions. So this is the actual text campaign that we sent to students on the first day of the fall semester in 2020. You'll see Reggie is reminding students that they actually need to log into Canvas to participate, something they may not have known because all of our face-to-face students were now taking classes remotely due to COVID. In this conversation, the student follows up. It's the same student from before asking, well, how do I log in? And the bot immediately responds by saying how to access the courses through Ocean Connect, go to the course ribbon. It does then nudge the student to ask another question, ultimately get help without any human interaction.
In the area of student support, Reggie texted over 6,100 students about food insecurity this past May. And you can see here in the slide that the results, they're staggering. Ocean already has a robust food pantry, but we still had so many students who experienced hunger and who were worried about purchasing food. Again, here, Reggie allowed us to connect students who experienced food insecurity directly with our food pantry and other resources. And so we used the results from the survey to apply for and obtain a $75,000 grant, which we were awarded from the state of New Jersey to further assist with our student needs. Now, when we first went remote in March 2020, we did so very quickly and with no transition time. And in this case, Reggie was critical in identifying which students had technology needs that would have to be addressed for academic success. Reggie surveyed more than 6,500 students to see who needed a computer or access to the internet. And we then use these results to loan Chromebooks to students through distribution pickup sites. And then we also gave information on internet vendors for free or discounted rates to get additional resources directly into students' hands. Reggie is also a great host. He invites students to events all over campus. For example, Reggie invited about 2,200 potential students to our fall 2021 open house, and we received 100 RSVPs within the first 24 hours. He also reminds students of when an event will be held and texts them a campus map and QR code for contactless check-in.
So you'll see in this example, this is our actual, again, text message that we sent to students to invite them to the fall open house. And it was being held on Wednesday, November 10th. This was from 2021. The student responded. If we get to the next slide, you'll see the student responded that Wednesday is not good for them. Reggie's like, oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. Wants to know if he can assist at all. The student then actually responds by saying they do want to come onto campus, just not on Wednesdays. Reggie properly escalates this to a human helper. The moral of this story, or what happens at the end, is that because Reggie escalated this to an enrollment technician, the student actually came on campus for a campus tour the following Monday, an opportunity that easily could have been missed without Reggie using his behavioral intelligence, his augmented intelligence in order to properly escalate and give us that chance to actually capitalize on that opportunity.
Reggie not only sends communications to our students, but he also receives incoming messages and texts, as Sheena has indicated, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Instead of picking up the phone or sending an email, students will reach out to Reggie, and they do so for many different reasons. Students ask process-related questions like, when does spring registration open? Or can I book an appointment with my advisor? They also ask basic questions about the institution, like if the college is open, if it snows. And they also love bantering with Reggie, and then they interact with him like an old friend, which to them he is. And finally, Reggie also receives more thank yous than anyone else I know. Our students are so polite and they're so quick to thank Reggie for the information that he provides them. They thank him with words and emojis, so funny.
Here's some examples of how Reggie works when the students initiate the conversation. So this is how quick and easy students can get basic information. A student texts in, they ask about the FAFSA website, Reggie quickly responds. Now the clutch part here is that the student follows up in the next slide with a question about the college's school code. Now our executive director of financial aid could tell you that if they had to answer their phone and tell you the school code is 002624 3,000 times a day, they would, but they'd much rather the chatbot do it. The whole exchange takes less than 30 seconds. And although it's something a student could find easily on our website, students aren't always familiar with the whole hunt and peck method of college websites. So this is much easier for them in a modality they're comfortable with. And you'll see the student appreciates the quick response. The next message is a student requesting information on what to do if they forget their student password. Reggie answers with the quick information. And then you'll see on the next slide, student indicating it's snowing, Reggie. It does that here in New Jersey, although this weekend it's going to be almost 100. We'll feel like we're in Texas with y'all, Rose. Reggie suggests that the student actually opt in to the emergency closing, which is the Viking alert. The cool part here is that Reggie is translating institutional semantics. The student doesn't say anything other than it's snowing, but Reggie is able to dissect that and let the student know what they can do in order to discover inclement weather and check up-to-date information. Students often tell Reggie how much they love him, and you'll see that they find characteristics like being helpful, consistent, and responsive apparently very attractive. Reggie lets them down pretty gently because he's a gentleman. Just another silly example of Reggie always having an answer. This is just an example of one of the thank yous that students send over to Reggie. In 2021, Reggie received 1,000 thank yous, and it doesn't just count the thank yous. It's 1,000 thank yous, but how many different ways does he get told thank you? Turkey emojis, raising the roofs, thumbs up. Students are super appreciative of quick and accurate information.
I muted myself. These key outcomes represent critical, timely work done by Reggie that saved OCC a great deal of money and employee effort. Some of this work was completed while many of us were sleeping. In fact, a recent report showed that a total of 12% of incoming messages that Reggie received came in when the office was closed, either after 8 p.m. or on a weekend or a holiday. I also want to highlight the importance of the over 25,500 messages answered, as well as the 440,000 messages sent. The amount of time and the number of people ordinarily required to complete these tasks represents hundreds of hours, even weeks, when estimating the amount of time each interaction might take a person conservatively.
I'm interrupting you, Jerry. I'm sorry. Just to make this really clear, you're assuming 1 minute for every incoming message that a human would have to take, or 1 minute for every outgoing message, right?
Right.
Now, I know this information because I just got it from Dr. Moore for our May board report. Kate, what's the average time or transaction time for an in-person transaction at the hub?
It's going to be 3 to 5 minutes.
Right. So you can really see how conservative our estimates are if we're using 1 minute. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. The other item to consider is that many times phone calls don't come in one at a time. They come in waves, like the ocean. Reggie enables the one-stop staff who as we have seen, he calls his human helpers, to answer more and move more phone calls in shorter periods of time because he's taking some of this volume. Because of Reggie, students don't need to wait for answers or responses, and staff can concentrate on the students who truly need help or students who prefer human interaction. Reggie doesn't eliminate the ability of students to engage with his human helpers and receive support. He just simply serves as another modality and allows us to connect with those who need it or prefer it, those who need it most. The engagement rates are greater than other modalities that we have previously used to engage with students. There's an element of perceived anonymity to responding to it through your smartphone to a text message as opposed to sending an email. Students who may not have previously engaged or raised their virtual hand for support now have an avenue to do so in a modality that they're comfortable with.
Actually, I have a good example of that one too. We sent out a survey just this past January, 1,400 students that were registered for fall, hadn't graduated yet, hadn't yet registered for spring. Within 4 hours, we had 100 responses. 100 responses because we said to the students, hey, do you need help? 100 students were like, yeah, I could use some help. How many of those students would have said, I need help, if we didn't first ask them if they needed help? It's that virtual hand raising, right?
Thanks, Sheena. Aside from the numbers that we saw Reggie put up on the previous slide, the institutional outcomes over the past several years have been significant. By immediately engaging with inquiries and applicants, Reggie was involved in the matriculation process from start to finish for our new incoming students. This contributed to a 2.5% gain in the enrollment of new students for the 2021 academic year, when the average community college experienced a decrease of 18.9% in the size of their new student class for that same time frame. We have seen increases in the size of our new student class in subsequent years as well. And it's worth noting the year previous to that fall during COVID was a banner year, because we have seen increases in our new student classes every year. Another positive outcome was the average credits a student enrolled in for that fall increased from 10.5 credits to 10.5 credits to 11.5 credits. Also due in part to Reggie's pushing students to complete the new student registration form and meet virtually with their academic advisors. Reggie assisted the college in decreasing the necessary steps of enrollment from 12 to 3, answering, and this is more of a design of the process that a student has to follow to become a student. We reduced it from 12 to 3 steps. But what he does, he answers process-related questions, eliminated barriers to enrollment, aligning with the open door mission of community colleges. Enrollment gains over the years since Reggie was implemented, the green bars and from one of those earlier slides certainly were a key outcome. Reggie also played a critical role in OCC, increasing our yield of graduating high school seniors. In 2017, 26% of the graduating class from Ocean County high schools enrolled at OCC the year after they graduated in high school. In 2020, almost 34% of them enrolled. So you have perspective, the average across the country is 25.4%, according to the NCES. So what have we learned? Students of today have specific expectations of an institution's responsiveness and the speed of accuracy of those responses. Reggie's automation rate is the number of times that he can automatically answer questions correctly without the need to escalate it to a human. I'm happy to report that his responsiveness is immediate and his accuracy, or his automation rate, rivals Alexa and Siri. At its core, an institution of higher education is a business, and while community colleges are not for profit, we are also not for loss. We interact with our students on a daily basis, and all you have to do to understand the expectations of the students and about the expectations that they have about the way that we interact with them is to interact with the same companies that they interact with. The companies that our students have become fond of are those who are proactive. For example, when a student buys a pair of sneakers on Amazon, the next time they visit the site, they'll be shown a multitude of sneakers and prompted to check out sales on socks or shoelaces. They don't even have to think or ask. It's right there at their fingertips. Members of Gen Z expect this kind of service wherever they go. If we want large numbers of them to be our students, we have to adopt this approach. And this is important. Proactive in our world has come to mean much more than just anticipating future problems, which is Webster's definition. To us, proactive means we're providing answers before they ask the questions. In practice, this means prompting them to complete all enrollment processes quickly and efficiently so that the rigor they experience at OCC happens inside the classroom, not on the road to it. I say that a lot. This philosophy guides everything we do. Reggie fits in and is a critical element in our approach. We're not finished exploring all the potential applications for AI at Ocean. In fact, this past semester, we launched a retention initiative that mirrors our successful enrollment processes. With Reggie at its heart, we're optimistic that we will see similar results.
Reggie works because he speaks to our students in a modality that they prefer and a language that they understand. And by language, I don't mean English or Spanish, I mean student-centered. A student might say, I'm broke, but they're really just looking for information on how to complete their financial aid documents. The level of translation allows students to interact with Reggie without understanding institutional semantics. He knows LOL means laugh out loud. A student waiting on their reward is really just waiting on their financial aid refund. He understands language unique to our institution. The Larson Center is our student center. The SCB is our enrollment building. The lesson here is to keep students as the central focus of all strategic initiatives that an institution takes on, like we did with Reggie. We involve students in the training of Reggie's knowledge base during implementation, and we keep student workers involved now to ensure that the database is student-friendly. The jargon is kept current. While I think I know what's cool and the best way to give students a message, the fact is I'm not an Ocean student. Including students in the planning phase for our communications helps to ensure that we're saying the right thing, the IQ, in the right way, the EQ, to the right students, the CQ.
And this is the real takeaway. The technology is not enough. It's the people powering the technology, putting it together properly and using it with purpose. Kate, I think it's your turn.
It is. Another big takeaway is the assessment piece. So as Dr. Asiopy just indicated, we need to use the technology with intent, and we need to assess. So this means that for effective planning, we need to ask not only what we will do with each text, but also how it fits into the larger picture of OCC and its intended value to students. So often we consider what we think is important, but we need to reflect on the student's perspective and think, what do they think is important? To us, the census date and its term is critical. To students, the last day to make a change to their schedule is critical. So we need to regularly assess our campaigns and messaging, what works and what doesn't and why. In order to be the most effective with the tools and resources that we have, continuous assessment is imperative. And the other aspect here is the yearly planning at the outset. So we have an annual communication plan, which allows us to open the lines of interdepartmental collaboration by planning each campaign and sharing this information so that everyone can see where and how their individual communication fits into this larger picture. Once areas around campus saw the effectiveness of the chatbot with our students, everyone was so excited about Reggie and what he could do and what he could do for their department. So we had an inbox overflowing with requests for Reggie to help each department, and we were able to essentially centralize those requests to develop a single comprehensive institutional plan. For example, the plan includes accounting's reminder to students with a balance due to make payment arrangements, and advising's reminder to students to make an appointment with their advisor, but it also includes specific messages to athletes regarding eligibility, to our veteran students regarding like their paperwork and getting that completed, or to incoming early college students with a specific scholarship opportunity. So our ability to assess directly correlates with our ability to plan efficiently and effectively.
And one more slide. Could you go ahead there, Jerry? Thank you. Timing of the messaging is also really important. We know that when Reggie reaches out, students respond. So not only do we pop into Reggie's knowledge base to see how students are responding, we also want to make sure the timing works. For example, we don't want to send out a billing text on a Friday afternoon when the most popular day to respond is Wednesday. We need to make sure that if something has to escalate, there's someone in the office to answer them. We send messages when they're appropriate. A 2-for-1 Frappuccino sale at Starbucks is wildly appealing, but only for students who are on campus at that time. Same goes for when like a 4-year representative school's on campus to do an instant decision day or answer questions about transferring. Timing is a really big piece of Reggie's success. Should also be considered a huge piece of all communication plans for all institutions. For example, when Reggie asks students if they need help, they can't wait weeks for us to gather the resources, to analyze the data, to respond and reach out. We need the ability to connect with students with immediate support in order to be the most impactful. The real-time data allows the institution to be action-driven and effective. The insight that the college gains enables us to make data-driven decisions in ways that were never before possible. So what's next? As Jerry alluded to, we have a retention team that are rock stars, and we are using Reggie in order to push alerts out to students, letting them know, again, in a really polite and kind way. We're not saying you're failing bio. We're saying, hey, did you know we have a tutoring center? So just kind of communicating with students about their current academic progress, maybe things that they need to do that they didn't, but in a really proactive and positive way. We use Reggie to connect students with their advisors through the advising caseload model. So Reggie will say things like, hey, Kate, your advisor, Jimmy, called me. He said you haven't called him yet. Call Jimmy. So we're being really granular in how we're using Reggie right now. We're using Reggie for customized pathways communications. What that means is that he reaches out to students based on their high school and communicates when we're going to be there, what counselor we're meeting with, the activities that are pertinent to that high school. So it's really granular again, and just continuing to focus on partnerships and targeted messaging. Our partnerships coordinator is really excited to be able to use Reggie for very specific concierging type of communications that can get students from point A to point B, again, based on who they are. I know, so this is better than when you're live, because now I know there's questions because they're sitting in the chat, and I'm going to actually start reading them unless Rose wanted to. The first question here says, when you send a text message from Reggie, do you limit the number of characters for the message to be 160? It's a good question. It's advised to keep your message to 160, and that's because of the carriers of the cell phones. Some cell phones may not allow you to send more than 160 characters at a time. So we are really cognizant of staying within the best practices of text messages. Many of our texts do go into 2 or even 3 messages. So it might say a message, it'll pause for 2 seconds, then the next one would arrive, a GIF might arrive, but we do try to keep it to 160 just because of best practices. But the good news is we can use abbreviations, we can use the @ symbol, we can do things like LOL, like we can really use a lot of jargon that we probably couldn't use in a professional email coming from the college. I'm just going to keep going here. So what triggers did you create to push the event question to a live agent? So Reggie uses an algorithm. And what that algorithm does is it basically says if he's 0 to 75% sure, he's going to push out the answer that he believes is right. If he is 75 to 85% sure, and these aren't exact, but if he's 75 to 85% sure, he's going to say, hey, I'm not positive, but I think this is what you mean. He'll give them the answer, and then he'll say, did that answer your question? Yes or no? If he's 90 to 100% not sure, it pushes it to a human, and he says, let me get that to a human for you. There's also a selection of words that will trigger a live person or escalation. Things that are security issues, threats to self or others, which is actually the next question in the chat, which is inappropriate questions. There's a plethora of words that will trigger an escalation. Those escalations get emailed to us 24/7, and then a human does have to respond. Less than 2% of questions get pushed to a human, and that's either because Reggie didn't know the answer or because of a severity issue, like a counseling or a security question. Did you want to add anything to that, Kate? Because you get a lot of those escalations.
No, that covers it. That's exactly how it works. And then it pushes to us so we can see them and the appropriate people can see them also.
That was one of actually when we implemented, to be very honest, that wasn't something that existed. And the first time we got a question from a student, it wasn't actually a security issue, but the student said, I'm dying in my bio class. And we were like, oh no, because it went off the word dying. And there's a lot of phrases apparently in the English language that sound really terrible to a chatbot. So we've had to play with it. The good news is, unlike human employees, chatbot employees learn immediately, and then they're really consistent and they never forget it. So I'm able to pick up, issues that happen, fix them, and then they don't happen again. But that is a constant work in progress. We originally thought, and you might remember this, Kate, that we would just like block George Carlin's 7 dirty words and then we'd be good to go, right? Apparently there's a lot more than 7. So it's been an organic process.
There's so many.
And that's okay, right? Like students should feel comfortable to an extent. Rose's question is, how is the data reviewed and in what form? It could be difficult to cull through sometimes. So I would say, for advice for colleges just entering the chatbot arena, make sure your vendor has reporting already. The less that you have to customize, the better. Make sure that you can, if the reporting is not within whatever vendor you're using, make sure that you have someone who can use Excel, who can export and sort and search and find things really easily. Our platform has the ability to give a lot of information. They've grown a lot in the past 5 years. We have too, and we've had the ability to say, hey, do you know what we need? I need a report that does this. I need a report that does that. I have a boss who may or may not be on this call who asks a lot of questions about a lot of reporting things. And the cool part is, I don't ever want to have to ask someone for something over and over again. If I'm going to ask for a report, I want to be able to take that report, use it myself going forward. I don't want to have to ask a third party to get data for me every time. And things have changed, right? Like our most popular day to respond used to be Tuesday. Now it's Wednesday. We've changed our course schedules though. So that's probably indicative of why. So the data is actually, it's really in depth. It's really granular what we can get out of it. It's just how you intend to use it. My advice for anybody just digging in is use the data that's in front of you. Don't make decisions because you think or you feel. Make decisions because you know. You're going to be a lot more successful that way and involve students along the way. I'm looking down here. What types of reports could you generate from your chatbot system to determine the data you presented? There's a lot of reports. You can get reports on anything. Any campaign that you send, we can immediately see the engagement rate. We can immediately see how many students are clicking through any embedded links. And a lot of times we're able to see the data through actions. We'll send a text message out to 1,000 students that says, you haven't paid yet. And then by the next day, 250 of those students have paid their bill. Action, consequence. We told them to pay and then they did. We're also able to pull in and see how many students opt out. We're able to see automation rates. We're able to see when text messages come in, if we're sending outgoing campaigns or getting incoming campaigns. Surveys, we're able to see how many students responded in any which way really, really easily. And that's great because, again, we're not calling through data. We're not scraping, trying to figure out what it all means. It's pretty clear, again, which is good because when Jerry asks, he doesn't want the minutia. He wants to know, what is the question? What is the answer? And it gives us real-time student data. Not because, again, we think or we want, it's not like an email where 10% of students respond. We get a 30 to 40% response rate every time.
It's worth mentioning that the response rates that we get to emails is just a fraction of that. In fact, when we started sending emails out to students who were eligible to get the HERF money, the disbursements that the federal government sent to all of us to give to students to help them through the pandemic, we notified a little over 1,000 students who were zero EFC students who were the first group that we were supposed to award them to. And after 2 weeks, only 100 of them had acted on it. And it was basically just an email about free money. Hey, would you like some free money from the, the email is just not useful. Anyway, okay, so what's the next?
How do you verify if a student has opted into texting? So if you are, and check with your local and state laws, if you are a nonprofit community college in the state of New Jersey, and the college has your cell phone number, which you have given to them, we can text you without getting specific consent. But in the first message, there has to be the ability to opt out or pause your messaging. If and only if we are messaging directly related to an enrollment task, something related to attending college. We couldn't text message someone that gave us their cell phone and say, hey, the planetarium's open. It has to be directly related. Again, check the local laws. It may differ. 4-year schools may not have the same rules. On our inquiry form and on our application form, there is a box that students check that say, I understand the college will contact me about my next steps for enrollment. And this is the way that we do it. The next question is from Kirsten about if we use the web-based chatbot feature. We do. It's not my favorite. And the reason is, I'm going to give you a really real reason why it's not. Within the database for text messaging, I can know exactly who a student is. I know if they're traditional or non-traditional. I know their major. I know how many credits they have. I know if they're a veteran. When someone types in on the computer, I don't know who they are. So it's really hard to give information to someone when you don't know who they are because they need different things. It could be a parent, could be a high school student. It could be a returning veteran, right? And so if they all ask the same question, the responses are going to be different based on who they are. And that blanket one size fits all answer doesn't work. It's not customized. Students want to know exactly what they need. And all of those other businesses, like Jerry said, they know who the student is. Netflix knows who you are. Amazon knows who you are. They look at your purchase history. They look at your watch history. If I don't have that history, it's really hard to respond to you accurately. So we do use the web feature. It is a minimal portion. It counts for less than 10% of the interactions that we have. It's a great place, honestly, to gain leads. Because the first thing Reggie says, if somebody text or messages in on the web, Reggie will say, "What's your name? Are you a student, a parent, an external stakeholder?" So then we can take that information, plug it into our CRM system, and use it as a lead. I'm going to read the next one. Does the chatbot pull reports about outcomes? We are able to use the chatbot for outcomes. So can the data from the bot be imported into other systems? Yes. Right now, the information is pulled out of our chatbot dashboard and it's imported into our CRM. So that way, on every student record in our CRM, we can see every message that's been sent or received by Reggie. So when we're looking for things like how many touch points does it take from the time a student inquires until they enroll, we can see that. We can see if it was a text message that then caused the student to complete their FAFSA. So we're able to see that all within the CRM. It's not a delivered function right now. It's something that we kind of band-aided. We use Mainstay for our platform, which was the next question someone asked, who is the vendor?
So Jerry and Kate, we're at 3 o'clock. If anyone has one more question, let's go ahead and get it out there. These have been wonderful. And I'm sorry that we're already at time, but we can take one more. But I do want to respect everyone's time and such a great presentation. Anyone? And we're happy to have you. Just unmute.
Yes, Janice.
Super. Well, I have one last one. So if you were thinking of a chat 2.0, what would you like to see? What would be the next best thing?
Thank you for asking. I know what I want. So as we're moving along with our success team, I actually see one of our success coaches here. What I want is a success bot that can interact with students based on a class. So I want a student to be able to be at work, be on their break, and a student can say bio 130 and the chatbot can say, cool, do you want to hashtag quiz me? Do you want hashtag flashcards? And they can interact with the bot based on a specific class and get academic assistance nudges based on their class. They can get, I know, Callie, you think that's a good idea too. I want to see those gateway courses where we're pushing people and students in a more proactive manner. And the reason I say this, Rose, is I have a student worker who's fantastic. She downloads different apps based on the classes that she's taking. She has like a skeleton app that she uses for A&P. And I was like, why can't we do that? It's like $1 for her to get this thing. And she said it's helped her pass the class. I'm like, we could do that. That's what I want. Academic chatbots. Yep.
That's great. Yeah, I was just in my head, I was like, where's the faculty? Where's the actually getting into the class? And so, yeah, right on. I love that. Thank you all so much. Jerry, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, we are using Reggie to support the academic success team now. And we've been looking at what's going on. How is this working as we've been going through the semester? And the really only measurable outcome that we can report that I think is worth mentioning is that we have seen traffic in the tutoring center increase 250% this semester. And half the students that are in the tutoring database interacted with our team or Reggie. And so it's definitely, it's driving a lot of activity within the tutoring center. And we're really excited about that. And we were actually just talking today about pulling grades to see how everything went. So we're excited about that.
Oh, wow. That's a great example. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you for everyone that was on this webinar. We really appreciate you. Again, congratulations to the team. I can't wait to hear what else comes through OCC. Please look on our website, look at our social media. We have a couple of other Bellwether Award winners to showcase as well. But everyone have a great day. Thank you so much and continue to do the great things you're doing. Appreciate you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.